We're going to talk about the latest Detroit Lions news and rumors. Doing a little roundup here on articles. We're going to go over it and, see what's going on with our beloved Detroit Lions. But before we do that, if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button right now. Trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. Let's go. As you all know, the NFL franchise tag deadline is over, and now we know exactly what teams have for their cap space, including our Detroit Lions, where we rank and all that. Very important because free agency starts less than a week away. We need to know what we're going against and what we have. So after the franchise tag, the Detroit Lions are still sitting at 7 here at $51.4 million. Really good spot considering the fact that we went to the NFC Championship game. A lot of this money, though, I fully expect that the Detroit Lions are going to sign some of their own players. Teams that we got to worry about here, how about is the Chicago Bears? They got cap space as well, and they're going to be active in free agency. We've heard rumors of them going after top free agent edge rushers, one being Danielle Hunter, and they could do moves like that. Maybe they like a Chris Jones or something. So that's one team that we really got to watch for when it comes to free agency because first off, it's in our own division, and they got the money. But shockingly, we're just right behind them at 7. Minnesota Vikings are sitting at 37 at 16. Green Bay at 13. They don't got a whole lot of cap space at all. And then there's actually teams in the negative, and they're terrible when it comes to the cap space. So Detroit Lions are looking pretty good. But again, don't get your hopes up and think they're going to sign every big free agent on the market. This money that we got, expect St. Brown to get some of that, Lee McNeil to get some of that, Graham Glasgow, they got to bring him back, or if they bring him back, and that's what they got to work with. And obviously, they want to get a high-end cornerback. You're going to need some money for that as well. So the Lions are sitting pretty when it comes to free agency. And there's one individual out there in the media that's praising the Detroit Lions, Chris Spielman, and I respect him a lot. And that is Charles Davis. I always like what he's got to say. I like his commentary and play-by-play. He says the things that started with Miss Hamp hiring Chris Spielman, he said, I think they kind of went below the radar. Ex-Lion coming back to kind of a special assistant, and that's a lot. There's an influence that he has, and I don't think it gets appreciated by the national people or the national media. Chris is not going to have a guy out in front. That's not what he wants to do. He wants to be back there. He wants to do ball and thing. He wants to be having the hand in Dan Campbell being the coach, heavy influence of Brad Holmes being the general manager. He's a go-to for both of them, resource. He's fully involved in everything goes on, and that culture started with getting it right, David said. 100%. Sheila Ford Hamp deserves a lot of credit for what she did, and hiring Chris Spielman is one of them. Obviously, he has played the game at a high level, former Detroit Lion. We all like Chris Spielman when he played here. And he is a good, calm head for the front office. He is a resource. If they need any help, that would be in the scouts or the general manager or Brad Holmes or Dan Campbell. Guess what? They can go to Chris Spielman for another opinion. And I'm sure they did with Jack Campbell. I'm sure that was one of the players they had opinion on, and because he played at the linebacker position, knew exactly what's going on there. So it's good to see Chris Spielman get some credit. I think we don't give him enough credit, at least on my channel or on here, and he deserves to get the credit. Chris Spielman, under-the-radar personnel for the Detroit Lions front office. Shout out to him. Now, Tim 20-Man came out with 10 free agents the Detroit Lions could look to get here. And the first one is Jonathan Greenard. Houston, I've talked about him, 26 years old. He's gotten 12.5 sacks out of Houston. They didn't franchise tag him. He is going to be a free agent, and that's awesome because you can get a young pass rusher in free agency to pair him up with Aiden. You can have a dynamic pass rushing duo. And I love Jonathan Greenard. I just think he's going to get a little bit more money because he's so young. So maybe another team out there would like to get him. But I would love, if we had Greenard, I'd be happy as a mug. I haven't even seen this list here. Kendall Fuller. Like Kendall Fuller, we've talked about him endlessly. Do I really need to go on it more? Probably not. Don't really need to do it. But he would be a bona fide number one for the Detroit Lions. at least for right now until they draft a guy who would eventually be it. But he would be the best one on the team probably immediately. Dorrance Armstrong from Dallas here. Like, it's not the biggest name in the world, but he's got 7.5 sacks. He could be somebody that you use a rotational piece. Because remember, we don't just need one. We need multiple edges because Charles Harris, Romeo, and Julian is now a Philadelphia Eagle, so we're going to need some. Danico Autry. Yeah, he's older, but he's with our Tennessee Titans defensive line coach. That could be an option for sure for the interior. Look, 11.5 sacks is pretty good. Under the Lions coordinator, defensive line, Terrell Williams last season. That could be an option. It would be probably a cheaper option, and he's production, and he knows the coaching staff. Keep an eye on Autry. Robert Hunt for the guard position. Well, if you can't get Graham Glasgow and you can't give Jonah Jackson, you're going to need some help on the interior. I wouldn't say this guy is the full-on starter, but he could be in the rotation for sure, one of those spots. Andrew Van Ginkel from Miami, 6 sacks there, 6'4", a rotational piece. I wouldn't say he's the NLBL, but he'd be rotational. Mike Donna, Kansas City, another rotational, wouldn't be the NLBL. Stephon Gilmore, a lot of people liked him. He's still a little bit older, still good cornerback for Detroit, could help out. Danielle Hunter, I've talked about him endlessly. I don't want to really do it anymore. You know what he brings. And Chidobe Ozzie, Cincinnati, another cornerback that the Detroit Lions could look at to help out. I think they'll go in a different direction, though, on this one. I think they do. But there's plenty of talent out there, and Tim 20-man is correct. I do like a lot of these guys here for the Detroit Lions to get it done. Jonathan Greenard will probably be the best because he is the youngest, but it would cost you more money, and that's why I've been saying Danielle Hunter all year long. And that one. Let's continue on here. Get into this bad boy. The Detroit Lions add pass rusher in Bolger's latest mock draft, and you're going to see a lot of this. Aiden Hutchinson needs help. We've talked about it. And he has the Detroit Lions getting Chop Robinson out of Penn State. I got a mock draft coming. Keep an eye on that name. From the Nittany Lions to the Detroit Lions for Robinson, this pick came up to Johnny Newton or Robinson, and I think that Newton might be the better profile fit, but the Lions need to get more explosive on the edges. They went against the grain in the first round last year, and I can't wait to see what they do in 2024. I don't think this would really be against the grain to go a Chop Robinson. We need edge. I think the predominant winner right now for the Detroit Lions is we need to get a corner in the draft, and I think a lot of people are going to have corner at 29 or trade her back. But would you be surprised if they go Chop Robinson or another edge? No, not at all. It wouldn't be a shocker to me. I think there may be better prospects available at that spot, but it wouldn't be shocking at all because we need help on the edge. We need a lot of help there, and that's the problem right now with this team is, we need help at edge, not just as a starter, but as depth as well. So hopefully they can get some of this stuff in free agency to make it a little bit easier for the draft. But absolutely, I would not be shocked at the least bit that is going to be occurring if they get a Chop Robinson. Again, Kool-Aid McKinstry is in there, all the Toledo Torpedo, but you may have to trade up. There's we've went over it. The Lions have options in free agency and the options in the draft. But if you're to look at everything that the Detroit Lions have done up to this point, you can rest assured that they're trying to upgrade the position. And while I'm talking to you, this just occurred. The Detroit Lions won't be giving Jerry Jacobs a restricted free agent tender. So it looks like he could return, right? Jerry Jacobs could return, but he may be gone because he played really bad last year. Jerry Jacobs was playing bad last year. And I don't know if it has to do with the coaching, but he played worse than he usually does. And if the Lions are going to get better at the corner position, clearly you got to upgrade. Now, look, they can bring him back on to see if he can compete for a 53-man roster. I have no problem with that. But I don't want to rely on Jerry Jacobs to be the guy because he showed that he can't be the guy. But he could be a backup. That is an option, but the Lions aren't in a big priority to bring back Jerry Jacobs. It's not a big priority. Why would it be? He hasn't proven anything that he can be relied upon. So the Lions are going to go in a different direction in that spot, and I'm fine with that. What do you guys think about potentially Jerry Jacobs not coming back? Do you want him to come back? Let us know in the comment section. Let us know. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this one. Again, we're dropping videos every day. Free agency starts next week. You want to hit that notification bell because news is going to be happening all the time. With that said, folks, adios.